Okay, stop scrolling. Real quick. There's one word institutional finance uses constantly that the XRP community almost never says right. It's not adoption, it's not partnerships, it's not corridors. It's collateral. And once you understand what that one word actually does to supply, you will never look at the XRP price the same way again. I promise you that. And the timing? Wild. Because in a single 24-hour window this week, the three deepest financial markets on planet Earth, the US, the UK, and the EU, all took a step toward live tokenization at basically the same time. That almost never happens, and Ripple holds a license to operate in all three. Now, in the middle of all that, a screenshot went around that kind of broke the community's brain. People thought the DTCC, Wall Street's giant settlement house, just set a secret $5 price floor for XRP. And I'm going to be straight with you, that's not what happened. But here's the twist. The real story is actually way more interesting than the myth. So stick with me, because I'm going to separate the documented facts from the hopeful theories. And by the end, you'll understand this better than 99% of the timeline. Let's dig in. Real quick, from me to you. I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice. And here's my promise for this one. Some of what I cover today is documented fact, and some of it is a thesis, a theory, and I will always tell you which is which. Never risk what you can't afford to lose, and always do your own research. Cool? What's going on? Everybody, welcome back to Crypto with BHW, where we tell it to you straight with heart. Grab your coffee, get comfy, because today we're going one level deeper than the usual XRP hype, into the actual machinery that moves price. Let's go. All right, let's start with that word, because everything today hangs off it. For years, this community has measured XRP by one thing: adoption. More partnerships, more payment corridors, more volume flowing across the bridge. And look, that stuff matters. It's real. But here's the problem with adoption as a price driver, and almost nobody explains this part. When XRP is used for a payment, it gets bought and sold in seconds. Money comes in one side, XRP bridges it, money goes out the other side, and that XRP is immediately free again. It turns over, constantly. So yes, adoption creates demand, but it's demand that evaporates the instant the transaction settles. It's a river flowing through. Now here's the other word: collateral. Completely different animal. When an institution posts XRP as collateral, say to back a margin position, they can't sell it. It's locked, frozen in place for as long as that position stays open. Could be weeks, could be months. And here's the kicker: while it's locked, it's gone from the available supply. Taken off the table. You feel the difference yet? Adoption is a river running through your hands. Collateral is water taken out of the lake entirely. One creates temporary flow. The other creates permanent scarcity. And scarcity, real, structural, locked-up scarcity, is the thing that drives a fundamentally different kind of price behavior. Not a spike that corrects the next day, a floor that keeps rising. That's the lens for this entire video. Hold on to it, because everything that happened this week only makes sense once you're looking through it. So that's the theory. Now let me show you why this specific week lit that theory up like a Christmas tree. Because three of the biggest markets on Earth just moved at once. Okay, let me put the whole picture on the table, because the individual headlines are cool, but the pattern is what matters. Piece 1, the United States. The DTCC, the clearinghouse that settles the vast majority of U.S. securities and holds somewhere around $114 trillion in assets, is moving from blockchain pilots into live tokenization infrastructure. And Ripple is inside that world through Ripple Prime, which sits in the DTCC's 50-firm industry working group, right alongside Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and BlackRock. Piece 2, the United Kingdom. And here I've got to give you the accurate version, because some coverage overcooked it. This week in her big Mansion House speech, UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves laid out a plan for Britain to become the first G7 nation to issue a government bond on a blockchain, a digital gilt called Digit, running on HSBC's Orion platform. Now, honest detail, that's a plan targeted for early 2027, not a thing that went live this week. But here's the part that ties into our theme perfectly. The Bank of England's governor, Andrew Bailey, said they'll work to make that digital bond eligible as collateral in central bank operations. There's that word again. Piece 3. The European Union. Ripple reportedly secured its MiCA license earlier this summer, the framework that lets it operate payments across the entire EU. That's the deepest pool of currency liquidity outside the US dollar. Now, zoom out. US, UK, EU, 3 of the deepest financial markets on Earth, all leaning into tokenization in the same window. And Ripple holds regulatory standing in all 3. These giants do not usually move in the same direction at the same time. When they do, it stops looking like scattered experiments and starts looking like a coordinated build-out. That's the pattern, and it's real. But I promised you I'd untangled a $5 screenshot, the one that had everyone losing their minds. So let's do it now, and let's do it honestly, because the truth here really matters. All right, deep breath. This is the part where being honest actually makes the story better, not worse. So let me keep it 100 with you. Here's what went around. Somebody posted a screenshot from the DTCC's Learning Center, showing rules where a crypto asset priced at $5 or below gets hit with a much bigger haircut, and above $5, it gets a standard 35% haircut. A haircut, by the way, just means they discount the value of your collateral to protect against volatility. Post $100 of XRP with a 35% haircut, it counts as 65. That's it. And the community ran 2 directions with it. Some said XRP's being punished for being under $5. Others said the DTCC set a secret $5 price floor. And I need you to hear me clearly, neither of those is accurate. All right, here's the honest version. First, that screenshot came from an AI-generated answer inside the DTCC's Learning Center, surfaced by an analyst. It is not a formal DTCC policy, and that $5 number is an illustrative benchmark, an example, not a price target and not a floor. Anyone telling you the DTCC promised a $5 XRP is selling you something. But, and this is why it still matters, the genuinely real part is this. XRP now appears in the DTCC's Learning Center, classified as a cryptocurrency, with collateral guidance attached. That classification, that's the actual news. That's the recognition. XRP being modeled inside the same risk framework as the big traditional assets. That's a real step. And it's the part worth being excited about. Not a fake price floor. The recognition itself. See how the honest version is actually cooler? You don't need the myth. The truth stands on its own. Quick one before we keep going. Did you know that DTCC settles most US securities and holds around $114 trillion in assets? Most people have never heard of it. Type yes or no in the comments. Okay, so the recognition is real. Now, let me connect it back to that word from the very beginning, collateral, because this is where the mechanism gets genuinely powerful, and where one real quote changes everything. All right, let's bring it all together, because this is the heart of it. Remember the river versus the lake? Here's where it gets concrete. And here's the quote that anchors the whole thing. A documented, on-camera statement, not community speculation. Mike Higgins, the CEO of Ripple Prime, that's Ripple's institutional prime brokerage, the business they built out of buying Hidden Road, said plainly that XRP is being positioned as institutional-grade collateral, right alongside Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. His words, in his role, on camera. And it's not just talk. It's reportedly backed by a $200 million margin financing facility. So this isn't what if. This is Ripple's own Prime CEO describing what they're building toward. Now run the mechanism forward. If institutions start posting XRP as collateral to back their positions, because Higgins is literally saying, post XRP as good margin instead of selling it, then every dollar of XRP locked in those positions is a dollar of XRP pulled out of circulation. Lock up $1 billion in positions, and $1 billion of XRP goes quiet, off the market, for as long as those positions live. That's the difference maker. Adoption gives you transactions that turn over in seconds. Collateral gives you supply that gets removed and stays removed. And the more institutions want that settlement efficiency, the more they lock, and the tighter the remaining float gets. That's the engine that produces a rising floor instead of a pump and dump. Now, my honesty rule kicks back in here. There's a real open question. Is this collateral system fully operational today? Or is it still an ambitious framework, waiting on more approvals and counterparties? The truthful answer is, it's early. The pieces are being assembled. Some are live, some aren't yet. So this is a powerful mechanism and a documented direction, not a switch that's already flipped. Both of those things are true, and you deserve to hold both. So let's bring it all the way home, and let's talk about those giant numbers on everybody's thumbnails. Because you've earned the honest math, not the fantasy. All right, let me give it to you straight, the way I'd tell a friend across the table. You've seen the thumbnails. $500, $1,000, $2,000 XRP. So let me be dead honest about where those come from. They're built by taking the total size of global FX and settlement markets, which really does run into the hundreds of trillions, and imagining XRP capturing a slice of it as a settlement and collateral asset. And if you plug in a big enough slice, yeah, the numbers get huge fast. But here's the truth about that math. It is speculative. Full stop. It assumes XRP beats out other chains for a meaningful share. It assumes a timeline nobody can actually predict. And it assumes all this infrastructure that's being built right now actually gets used at massive scale. None of that is guaranteed. So when you see $2,000 XRP in giant letters, treat it as a scenario, not a promise. That's just being honest with you. So what is solid? This part. The infrastructure to even make those scenarios possible is being built and documented in real time. The DTCC is going live. The UK's got a real tokenization roadmap. Ripple holds licenses across 3 major markets. Mike Higgins is building XRP collateral use cases. Those are facts. The path from here to big is shorter and more documented than it has ever been, even if the destination and the timing are still open questions. So what do you do with all this? You stop staring only at the hourly price. That's the river. And you start watching the mechanism, the collateral, the lock supply, the recognition. That's the lake. Because the people who win in this space aren't the ones refreshing the chart every 10 minutes. They're the ones who understood how the price could structurally change before it did. And hey, zoom out one last time. A couple years ago, XRP was fighting for its life in court. Now, its own prime brokerage CEO is naming it as institutional collateral next to Bitcoin. That arc only points one direction over the long run. The pain doesn't last forever. It never does. So here's where I'll leave you, fam. One word: collateral. 3 markets moving as one. And a mechanism most people haven't even heard of yet. Whatever these next few months bring, green or red, we walk through it together. Clear eyes, steady hands, because that's what we do here. If this one made the machinery click for you, do me a favor. Drop your honest thoughts below. I read every single comment. This has been Crypto with BHW, where we tell it straight, with heart. Stay ready, stay hopeful, and I'll catch you in the next one.